Hey everybody, Dave here, Secret Squirrel 123 on Twitter and on YouTube. We're doing something special today. We are going solo because it is school's on and kids are at school, and this is important. So I decided to do this real quick without them here. So we're going to talk about a few things. This is in reference to the attack on the Kremlin. This is important because we have so many conspiracy theory guys out there, and people just don't know what they're talking about. Okay, so we're going to go over what we know. Yesterday, or the other day, at 2:27 a.m., the Senate Palace at the Kremlin was hit with a drone. 2:43 a.m., the Grand Kremlin Palace was also hit by a drone. There were two drones, not one, that were on this mission. All right? But this is a part of a bigger drone campaign that they've been waging. On April 24th, same type of drone was discovered 22 kilometers outside of Moscow. And in March, the same type of drone was also found 30 kilometers east of Moscow. Okay, so there are two other drones that supposedly were found in the area. And so that makes a total of about 6 drones that were shot at Moscow in the last 2 months. Okay, which is about right, because they launch one, see where it lands, and launch another one, and launch another one. Okay, so these are Uniform Juliet J-22s, or UJ-22 drones. They are made of fiberglass foam construction, and a range of about 800 kilometers. We all know about them. Okay, they carry up to 40 pounds of explosives on them. And depending on how far they have to fly, they'll have to back that off. So the farther they fly, the less ammo or the less explosives they can carry. So that's what we know. All right, so they have been attacking the Kremlin. They have been doing it. It's not a first time. This is supposedly the 5th and 6th drone that they've launched. I got a lot of people going, they couldn't possibly go to the Kremlin because there's air defense around it and everything like that. This little tiny drone, about 500 pounds, can't possibly get to the Kremlin. Well, guys, please, Google is there for a reason. Okay, in the past, Matthias Rust in 1987 landed a Cessna, flew all the way over the USSR, landed a Cessna in front of the Kremlin. All right, there was about 5 times more air defense in the Soviet Union along its route than there is now in the Ukraine, or in between Ukraine and Moscow. All right, Frank Corridor crashed a Cessna into the White House in 1994. These places don't have enough air defense to stop stuff like this coming in. And these Cessnas are a lot bigger than the UJ-22. Okay, so smaller aircraft, and basically it's stealth, okay? Okay, Moscow, Paris, Rome, London, DC, none of them have foolproof air defense systems in them. You've got large cities, lots of ground clutter, aircraft get lost in ground clutter, so you can't lock on them. And you've got towers and high-rise buildings and everything like that. That all messes up air defense engagements. Also, like I said, the UJ-22 is about 500 pounds from what we can see. Now, to bring it down, you can launch an S-400 at it, but the S-400 weighs 1,200 kilos, about, 2,200 pounds. So generally, what you do to bring down an aircraft is fire 2 missiles per aircraft. You'd be pumping, the other night they would have pumped at least 4 missiles in the sky for, 4 tons of stuff to fall out of the sky? And that's if only one battery fires. If one battery fires, you're probably going to have several batteries around the city start engaging too. That's what happened in Baghdad, both in 91 and 03. So you'd have dozens and dozens of tons of high explosives going into the sky to bring down basically 2 Claymore mines. Okay, so that's what happens. When one aircraft starts shooting, or one air defense system starts shooting, others tend to join in. But around most of these cities, the controls are what they call white hold. White, you're not expecting an air attack at that moment, and hold means you're probably going to have to get national authority, or at least a 2 or 3 star general, to authorize you firing. There's not a lot of time for that. So, in 1991 and 2003, most of the damage that was done in Baghdad was actually due to air defense missiles and rounds coming back onto the city. We did a lot of damage, but they did more. Okay. Also, in Poland a few months ago, a Ukrainian S-300 landed in Poland, killed 2 people. These things will come down, and so when you're engaging these little tiny drones, the commander's got to ask himself, do I really want to fire, or is it better just to let them do their damage? Again, the UJ-222 or UJ-22 can carry up to 20 kilos of explosive or ordnance or whatever. Max range is 800 kilometer. There's about 500 of them that were built before the war. Now, I saw a video, and I'm not going to say where I saw it, but they had at least 1,000 wings sitting there being built when I saw them. They're carbon fiber, foam, and plastic, which means they're stealth. Good luck. Now, this is what they call an RC mat. We used these in training up till a few years ago. It came out in the 80s. This thing has a gas-powered motor in the front. It has some electronics in it. But other than that, this should be similar to the construction of what the Russians are facing. Sorry. But what happens is, unless it's coming directly at you with a flare attached to it, a heat-sinking missile is not going to be able to get a lock-on it. And unless we would have to take these and put tin foil on them to get a good enough radar return to get radar lock on them. Without that on there, these things are stealth and invisible. Yes, they do have a metal gasoline engine on them, and they do have electronics. But other than that, this foam and everything absorbs the radar. Okay. And most air defense today is not geared for these things. They're geared for fighters and bombers, putting out large heat signatures and covered in metal. Okay. So, a lot of the people were going, why do this? Why would anybody in Ukraine do this? You're just going to piss off Russia and cause a mass mobilization, and then Russia will bring out its army and attack Ukraine. Okay, well, here's why. There's actually a contest right now. There's been since the beginning of the war. A rich Ukrainian guy is offering $500,000 for hitting the Kremlin, and also I believe in Europe there's a GoFundMe thing where it's 400,000 euros also. So that's $1 million. Okay, it's not against the law. In the first few days of the war, Ukraine passed a law that said it was a hunting season on Russian military. So if you go and kill a bunch of people or kill a bunch of soldiers in the Ukraine that are Russian, it's legal. Same thing with Russia. If you kill them in Russia, it's legal. Okay? We saw this at the beginning of the war. A lot of civilians picked up the rifles and went out and started hunting Russians. And also, a unit commander sent 2 Hind helicopters, Mi-24s, into Belgorod to mess up the Russians, and that happened. Also, recently in Belarus, a Ukrainian Special Forces group attacked a AWACS aircraft on the ground in Belarus, did it on their own, didn't get any permission, okay, and that's what they do. Also, Ukrjet, or Ukraine Jet, whatever, they may want a really nice commercial, and this would be a good way to get some press, because they do want more contracts, okay? All right, in addition to that, we can look back to the Doolittle raid of 1942. I know we're stretching everything, but here's what happens. You attack a palace or a headquarters or a city center. Those civilians are going to want protection. So they're going to drag more and more air defense, more troops, more machine guns, more missiles, more everything into that city. they have to come from somewhere, and so what's going to happen is they're going to take people out of the Donbass, off of the Ukrainian line, and put them back in Moscow. Those soldiers are going to love it because they're back home, but the guys up on the front, this is a perfect opportunity to degrade the air defense at the front, just in case, if, let's say, something were to happen in a few weeks, they'd have to face less air defense and probably less troops on the ground. So, now the thing is, the May 9th is coming up, okay? Russia does not want to have anything to happen on May 9th. So they're going to take everything that they can, everything that they have, and put it around Moscow. If it's around Moscow, it can't be on the Ukrainian border. So it's a total win-win for everything. I know you got some conspiracy people out there who say, you know, doing this will just upset Russia and they'll nuke Ukraine. It would take a lot of nukes. And if they nuked Ukraine, they would lose all the Chinese, the Indians, the Africans, everybody would turn on them. And there's nobody to mobilize, basically. They can mobilize maybe 300,000 more people, but they don't have the guns, they don't have the helmets, they don't have the tanks, they don't have the trucks, they don't have anything. It's all trade publication in Russian, from Russia, saying that they don't have any four-wheel drive vehicles to pull the wounded off the front lines. So this is just a win-win for Ukraine. And so they're becoming more and more like the IDF, and they're like, oh, that's a nice bridge. Shame if something happened to it. Did it blow up? Yeah, sure, but we didn't do it. I don't know who did it. Okay. Also, air defense. In the last 30, 40 years, basically this has been a worldwide trend. Everybody's been taking away air defense from the Army and giving it to the Air Force. More money going into certain programs like the F-35. Instead of ground-based air defense, money's got to come from someplace. So a lot of the old air defense systems, Vulcans, Chaparrals, Sergeant Yorks, Rolands, all these systems are now gone. Not many air defense systems left. And believe it or not, this is now the primary weapon for bringing down aircraft in the U.S. military, the .50. The United States Army does not have a single air defense gun. We have guns used in the air defense role, but no air defense guns. All right. Any questions, concerns, complaints, anything? You know where I live. Thanks much. Bye.